Hello friends, welcome to the Cosmic Viking. My name is Rowan McLaughlin, and in this channel we take a sideways look at the world and explore realms that are just out of sight, hidden realms. And today we're going to journey through time itself, using the Irish landscape as our time machine as we visit various different and, to be honest, quite randomly selected archaeological sites.
Our first landing place is the Neolithic, or New Stone Age. This is not the first phase of Irish prehistory, but it is where we find the most ancient monuments, the megaliths.
Megalithic just means large stone, and this is a large stone. This must be, 20, 30 tons? Who knows? Who knows how it got up here on these upright stones, but it's been sitting up here for 6,000 years, or close to it. Now this is a portal tomb. Megalithic tombs are found right across the Atlantic seaboard of Europe. But in Ireland, portal tombs and court tombs date to the early part of the Neolithic, so from about 3,800 BC onwards. They're sites that were used to bury the dead, but also they're spectacular works of architecture in themselves. This one, Leganani Dolmen, is iconic. Many hills, mountains, prominent places in Ireland are capped with one of these, a passage tomb. And this is a megalithic tomb used in the Middle Neolithic and also in the early Neolithic. So at 3,700 BC and again around 3,000 BC for burial. And these are circular cairns of incredible size with a central burial passage. And you can see how these sites were made. These dry stone lintels set one on top of another, going round and round and round, and eventually completely enclosing the roof in a corbel, as it's called. And this is the Giant's Ring just outside Belfast. It dates right to the very end of the Neolithic period at around 2,500 BC. Lots of henges are smaller than this. There's actually not too many henges in Ireland, but the Giant's Ring's an excellent example. Many henges actually have an internal ditch and an external bank. That's how an easy way you can tell them apart from the later ringforts. But here at Giant's Ring there is no internal ditch. It was used in recent times, in the 18th century, I think, for horse racing, which it would be absolutely excellent for. Perhaps the most charismatic and the most enigmatic kind of prehistoric site in Ireland is this, the Stone Circle. And this example, which is called Ballyknoe Stone Circle, it's just outside Downpatrick in County Down, is particularly enigmatic because, as well as the stones of the circle, it also has the central burial chamber. And this was excavated in the 1930s, where they found human remains, and this is unusual. Now, nobody really knows exactly how old this site is, but I personally think it dates to the early Bronze Age, so about 2,500 BC. Apparently the remains have recently been rediscovered in a university in the Netherlands, so maybe new analysis will prove me right or wrong. But it's a fantastic site and a wonderful location. Another feature of many Irish stone circles that date to the Bronze Age is the presence of these alignments of stones. Now these might point to some significant part of the landscape, but more probably it points to some significant part of the cosmos in the minds of the builders. And that is going to be the subject of another video. In the late Bronze Age and in the early Iron Age, there's not too many visible indicators of human settlement in Ireland, but there is one important type of site, the hill fort. This example, Scrabo in County Down, just outside Newtownards, is not very well preserved, partly because of the quarrying associated with the building of the enormous 19th century tower up there. But these were significant earthworks. You can see this huge C-shaped ditch that would have enclosed part of the top of the hill, making for a really, really highly defensive site.
Not all Iron Age earthworks were defensive in function. Here at Rathnaree and Tara, the enclosure of the kings, they enclose a vast area and were seemingly for ceremony. One of the problems with a site like Tara, when you visit it, it's quite difficult to get a sense of the scale of the place and the layout of the enclosures from the ground. It's almost as if it was designed to be fully appreciated from the air. But of course they couldn't get into the air, up into the sky in the Iron Age. Or maybe they could. Somehow, maybe not somatically, but in the mind, perhaps. And very late in the Iron Age, or maybe early in the early medieval period, the first writing in Irish appears in the archaeological record. It's a transliteration of the Latin alphabet, but it's very much the native Irish language, the Ogham script. This is a standing stone at Achascreba in County Tyrone that contains the name of a man that lived here 15, 16, 1700 years ago. This is Lisnabrinny Rath, one of 45,000 raths, also called ringfort, that are found all over the island of Ireland. The fact that there's so many of these means that the population of the island at one point must have been absolutely enormous. Of sites like this that were excavated, most were occupied in the 6th and 7th centuries, although there's plenty of examples earlier and later than that. In fact, some of them were occupied right up until the 17th century. And the very earliest of these monuments, these settlements, seemingly were constructed actually in the late Iron Age. I'll show you how they were made. The material to make the ringfort is just found in the landscape. The earth, the clay, was excavated out of a big hole in the ground that became a ditch and heaped in the inside to make this big bank. And in total it makes for a quite impenetrable fortress, and that's what these sites were, fortified settlements of the early medieval period. Another site that was built in early medieval times is this, the Souterrain, which is an underground artificial cave, sometimes made of just of earth, but many, like this one, Blinder's Cove, or Finis Souterrain, is made of stone, granite. Incredibly skillfully made dry stone walls that have been here for over 1,000 years. These peaked a bit later than raths or ringforts, in the 9th, 10th, 11th centuries. They're amazing places, used for storage probably, but also maybe as a source of refuge. You know, if the Vikings were attacking, you could hide down here. Amazing. There's no reason to be fearful of the Vikings though. And I'm born again. And travelling or walking or riding through the Irish landscape or moving around its coast by boat, in the early medieval period, in the distance, the traveller would see these round towers sticking up above the trees, and that is why they were built so tall and so impressively. Whereas the round tower at Nendrum is just a stump. This example, Monaster Boyce, which is visible just off the main road between Belfast and Dublin, is much better preserved. Here at Duleek, it's because a later church in the abbey here was built up against the round tower, which has completely disappeared, but it's left the scar. Monastic settlement in early medieval Ireland wasn't just about ecclesiastical life. The monks who lived in these monasteries wanted to control all aspects of society. They had a militaristic function and an economic function. Here at Nendrum, preserved in the tidal flats in Strangford Lough, there are the remains of the oldest known tidal mill anywhere in the world. And this was used for grinding corn. People, the farmers who farmed the land, the drumlins round here, brought as part of their land rent food, grain to Nendrum, and the monastery ground the grain into flour, and from there it was sold all over Europe. And a major watershed moment in Irish history occurred in the late 12th century when the Normans invaded.
And today, of course, the most visible feature of the Normans is their fortifications.
Not only did they build these impressive medieval castles, but they also upset the existing economic and political order, and of course changed forever the relationship between Ireland and Britain.
Another thing that the Normans brought to Ireland was new ways of organising religious worship. They rebuilt pre-existing monasteries in new styles, like the perpendicular Gothic arches that we see here at Inch Abbey in County Down. This is a Cistercian monastery built on the site of an earlier monastery by the Normans under the patronage of great Norman knight John de Courcy. It really is wondrous, just looking at the 850-year-old masonry. Ireland was deeply embroiled in the European world in the high medieval period. In addition to all the clans and warring kingdoms in the secular part of society, there was also a proliferation of monasteries at this time, such as this Cistercian one here at Mellifont.
As time progressed, we can see how buildings became more recognisably modern. By the early 17th century, many of the landowning classes had stopped building castles altogether and instead lived in these lightly fortified manor houses. Then by the late 17th century, everything changed with massive wars between rival kings. Now, just a peaceful hillside with flowers and birdsong.
There are, of course, many more places I could have shown you on a video like this. These are just the places I happened to be passing when I had my camera with me. But I've chosen to end it here in this mountainside, looking down over the landscape, because when I look down to the landscape, what I like to think about is all the human effort that's gone into its creation. It fossilises all that, integrates all that history. And these little nodes within it, these sites that we've seen in this video, they're like little glowing embers from a distant world. A world now contained within ours and within us, for it makes all our experiences what they are. The words that we use, our languages, our religions, our ways of interacting with each other, our economies, are all rooted in the past. It's a wonderful frontier to explore. So I hope you enjoyed this whistle-stop tour through Ireland's archaeological past, and yeah, I'll see you again. Bye.